tears in heaven, no sorrows given, all will be glory in that land. There'll be no sadness, all will be gladness, when we shall join that happy band. No tears in heaven, no tears up there, sorrow and pain will all have flown. No tears in heaven, no tears up there, no tears in heaven will be known. Glory is waiting up yonder, where we shall spend an endless day. There with our Savior will be forever, where no more sorrow can dismay. No tears in heaven, no tears up there, sorrow and pain.
Father, we, at this moment, are just full of mixed emotions. We share in the sorrow of a loved one who is no longer with us, and we rejoice in the life that she lived, the lives she touched, and the knowledge that she will receive a resurrected body, one that will never perish, and that she will be in the presence of you and your Son for all eternity. We thank you for the life that Betty lived, the people whose hearts she touched, and her service to the kingdom. We ask your blessings on those who are the closest family and friends that are grieving at her passing. And we pray that your Spirit will bathe them with your comfort and peace, and that they will know that they were loved by Betty, and that they are loved by us as we join with them at her passing. Bless this time as we reflect and remember. May it encourage us and remind us and inspire us to make a difference in the lives of other people around us, and to help us learn to love better. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.
Good morning. I want to, first of all, thank you for being here. I want to thank the family for this opportunity to stand before you. And as I was saying to the fellas down there just a moment ago, Mitch and I are kind of like the opening acts, and Sam and Aaron will be the headliners as we celebrate Betty's life. But I'm glad that you're here. I'm glad that you took time out of your schedules to be here today to celebrate this woman and a life dearly lived, and to support this family. I had the good pleasure of meeting Betty and Ellery over 31 years ago. In fact, 31 years, 2 months, and 2 weeks to the day I met them here in this building for the very first time. A little later on in the afternoon, we had a Q&A session downstairs. The church here was looking for a preacher, and they were foolish enough to take me on, and I was glad to be here. And so it's been my pleasure to work with this church and to know Betty and then Ellery as well for a good long time. So I'm thankful to be here today. As we celebrate her life, I thought what I would do is read a couple of, I think, self-explanatory passages. They're the kind of passages that I think you'll see how they fit in Betty's life. And then I'm going to throw you a few stories and then turn things over to Sam and let him take it from there. I begin in Proverbs 31, and I know you've probably heard this a lot at funerals. It's never been probably more fitting than it is for this one. Beginning in verse 10 through verse 31, we read these words. A wife of noble character, who can find? She is worth far more than rubies. Her husband has full confidence in her and lacks nothing of value. She brings good, not harm, all the days of her life. She selects wool and flax and works with eager hands. She's like the merchant ships bringing their food from afar. She gets up while it's still night. She provides food for her family and portions for her female servants. She considers a field and buys it. Out of her earnings, she plants a vineyard. She sets about her work vigorously. Her arms are strong for her tasks. She sees that her trading is profitable and her lamp does not go out at night. In her hand, she holds a distaff and grasps the spindle with her fingers. She opens her arms to the poor and extends her hands to the needy. When it snows, she has no fear for her household, for all of them are clothed in scarlet. She makes coverings for her bed. She is clothed in fine linen and purple. Her husband is respected at the city gate where he takes his seat among the elders of the land. She makes linen garments and sells them and supplies the merchants with sashes. She is clothed with strength and dignity. She can laugh at the days to come. She speaks with wisdom, and faithful instruction is on her tongue. She watches over the affairs of her household and does not eat the bread of idleness. Her children arise and call her blessed, and her husband also, and he praises her. Many women do noble things, but you surpass all of them. Charm is deceptive and beauty is fleeting, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. Honor her for all that her hands have done, and let her works bring her praise at the city gates. Clearly, Betty was a woman of great nobility. Betty was a woman of great character. And I don't have to tell you that. I remember our first visit to their house. As I said, it was that Saturday so many years ago. And as we were driving, passing the church building, heading to their house, it's only 2-lane out there. That tells you how long ago this was. We're passing by the church building, and Rita and I are threatening the lives of our 4 children. We're going to Betty and Ellery Griffith's house. We don't even know these people. But when we get there, you're going to have to behave, or we'll take you outside and kill you. I mean, we are really laying it on thick, because we want to make a good impression. We get to their house, and Bo Lynn and Alan Truax are there. Bob and Mary Mace were there. It was great to hang out with all of them. And I remember, our children didn't disappoint. They didn't embarrass us. We didn't have to kill any of them. In fact, not only that, I remember how well received they were. And it was especially Betty that went out of her way to make our children feel very comfortable in her home. And I have never, ever forgotten that. I remember countless other times that we got to go to their house for a host of other reasons. They used to like to host parties, and gatherings for people. Did it alphabetically, did it birthdays for a while, did it all kinds of ways. And we were able to go to their house on several occasions, always enjoyed it, always were treated like we were family. It was great. I remember one time it was evident to Betty that I enjoyed drinking sweet tea. And I made the comment to her that my mother-in-law used to make me my own gallon of sweet tea, just in passing. And sure enough, the next time I came, Betty comes and brings me a pitcher, sits it right down by my place, says, "That's your tea." And I was a little embarrassed at first. And then I remember thinking, oh, this is great. I'm going to rub everybody else's nose in this. Yeah, how about that tea you got over there? My glass isn't empty. It was awesome. That's just how she was. And so I'm thankful for that. I was so pleased to see Sharon here this morning. And Sharon, I don't mean to embarrass you, sweetie. I don't. But I'd get calls from time to time in my office, and Betty would say, hey, what are you doing? I was like, well, I'm sitting here in the office. What do I need to be doing? She goes, well, Sharon made cinnamon rolls over here at the high school cafeteria. I said, I'm on my way. Man, I'd like peel out, burn rubber, head over there. Got treated like a king. It was awesome. So those cinnamon rolls were great. I was about 30 pounds lighter before that all started. But Betty was great at making you feel like you were part of the family. She was hardworking. She was industrious. She was exemplary. She was all of those things that we read in that verse. I want to read one other verse for you too, and it's found in Isaiah chapter 40. And beginning in verse 27, it reads as follows. Why do you complain, Jacob? Why do you say, Israel? My way is hidden from the Lord. My cause is disregarded by my God, as though he has no idea what's going on or no regard for what's going on. Goes on to say, verse 28, do you not know, have you not heard? The Lord is the everlasting God, the creator of the ends of the earth. He will not grow tired or weary, and his understanding no one can fathom. He gives strength to the weary and increases the power of the weak. Even youths grow tired and weary, and young men stumble and fall. But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint. I want you to know something that I'm mindful of, and I know you're quite aware of. Betty had a deep, strong, and very apparent faith. I don't have to tell you that. It was obvious, and I think everything that she did. And I'm so thankful for that. She had a real spiritual side about her, and I'm thankful for that. And she pursued that all the days of her life. She demonstrated her ability and her desire to wait on the Lord, and I think because of that, the Lord has lifted her up. And I am thankful for that, and I know you are too. I can just imagine Betty and Ellery in their respective mansions in heaven hosting, some pretty awesome hospitality events already in heaven. I don't know how they've done it, but I'm sure they've had some really cool parties up there already. I'm sure there have been some laughs and some good times, and I'm sure there's been this perfect blending with Betty of hospitality and what I will call savage sass. Okay? Now, the best way I can illustrate that is this. I remember it like it was yesterday. This was in 2008, January 2nd, 2008, about 10:30 at night, maybe 11. My phone rings. It's Betty Griffith. I'm thinking, why in the world is Betty Griffith calling me at 11 o'clock on a Wednesday night? Well, I'll tell you why. My beloved Oklahoma Sooners had just played the West Virginia Hokies in a football game. And as fate would have it, West Virginia beat Oklahoma. Okay, it didn't happen often. It's only happened 3 times ever. But it happened. And so I pick up the phone, and it's Betty. And this is exactly what she says to me. What a game. And I thought, man, that is so awesome. I couldn't even be mad. It was pretty great. Now, I also had a lot of fun with that about 3 years later when West Virginia joined the Big 12, and then we got to soundly beat them about 9 years in a row. And I would remind her of that from time to time. But I love that about her. That is my favorite Betty Griffith story. What a game. And I can only imagine right now, she's probably saying something similar to that where she is. Boy, what an awesome victory. And what a victory it is. So the other day, this will give you some flavor of how much you need to pray for my wife, Rita. We were at Culver's having a snack. We had family members there. Steve and Sarah were there. Some of our kids and grandkids were there. We're talking, and I said, hey, Rita, has it dawned on you that when we moved to Independence, that Betty Griffith was 5 years younger than you are right now. Rita had not thought about that. No one thinks like that, you know. I'm pleasantly pleased that I survived. But the point is this: at whatever age you're at, our friend, our sister, our loved one would be telling you this: wait on the Lord, because in time, He will lift you up. And when He does, what a victory. Thank you again for being here.
Hi, I'm Sam Brock, and I've known Betty Griffith since I was probably 12 or 13 years old. So for a long time, she has been my friend. Betty is almost legendary for her hospitality. She was such a great cook and a great host, and you were truly blessed to be invited to one of her parties. As Roger has said, they were always fun and relaxing and totally delightful. And she tried to make sure that everyone would be included sometime, some way. She would use groupings of different kinds and sometimes put people on a rotation to make sure that no one missed out. And for those who started attending here after she was unable to host anymore, well, you've certainly missed out. It was a blessing to be included in her parties. We could all be better at being hospitable if we tried harder to be more like Betty. You want to know how to treat a spouse? Consider Betty's example. Betty and Ellery. She deeply loved that man. She told it, and she showed it. They were so close, they nearly became one word, Betty and Ellery. A 14-letter word that you can use in the game of Scrabble, and they deserve a triple word score. We could alter things for the better in our homes, in our home life, if we would just care for each other the way Betty cared for Ellery. Now, you might describe Betty using lots of kind and appropriate and honoring words, but I think I'll use the word ameliorator. Not a word that drips off your tongue, nor is it used in casual conversation. The word ameliorator means to alter things for the better, to improve things, to increase the good qualities of. Doesn't that fit Betty? Let me further explain this with an example of why this is a good word to describe Betty. When I was a deacon over education, Betty came to me and asked if she could take a group of 6 or so young teenage girls that worshiped here and teach them for a couple of quarters about service, Christian attitudes, godly expectations, simply how to become proper young ladies. Well, 2 of those girls were my daughters, and of course I said yes. And I recognized that with Betty's guidance, they increased in good qualities. Betty is the definition of an ameliorator. Betty. Well, I don't know if I can say anything more appropriate about her than what her name actually means. I looked it up in one of those books about names, and the name Betty means, God is my oath. God is my oath. And for her, it was, and is to come. Thank you.
just want to take this time to thank all of you for coming. My name's Griffith, and Betty is my grandma. I was her caretaker for about the last 8 years. When I woke up this morning, I said, Grandma, I need you with me today. And I was having trouble getting out of bed and looked at my clock to see what time it was and whether I should get moving or not. Now, I get pictures on my phone, from time to time, but I've never gotten one on my watch. And when I went to look at the time, right under the time, there was a picture of Grandma. She's here with us today. And she'll be with us always. Just a couple interesting points, because Grandma and Grandpa were soulmates. They both died at 87. Both died on the 20th. Grandpa passed away at 7:43 p.m., and she died at 7:43 a.m. I don't know what that means, but it's just really odd and interesting, so I had to mention that. But I want to thank you all for coming to remember her legacy, her love, her spirit, celebrating a beautiful person and a beautiful life. I want to thank the caretakers at Benton House and Home Instead for being in the trenches with me, helping me see her through, especially as she had dementia and different things. Her doctors that gave us a few more years with her to enjoy her, and the church, the friends and family for the visits and calls, and you guys coordinating card bombs and things like that for her birthday. I read her every one, and I put them all up around her room so that she'd see how much love was surrounding her at all times. I'm going to just take a quick minute, because I forgot to do this at Grandpa's. I didn't realize you're supposed to read the obituary, so I'm just going to do that really quickly. Betty J. Page Griffith, age 87, of Independence, Missouri, passed away Tuesday, February 20th, 2024. She was born August 5th, 1936, at home on a farm in Springfield, Missouri. She was the youngest child of 10 born to Amon and Rowena Page. She attended school at Central High School in Springfield, Missouri. Betty met the love of her life, Ellery, after he was discharged from the U.S. Army and came to Missouri for a visit. After a 3-month whirlwind romance, they were married and remained madly in love for 65 years. 2 children were born as a result of this union. Betty was a charter member of the East Independence Church of Christ, where she served the Lord faithfully in many capacities, including teaching elementary and junior high school classes for many years. Betty retired from the Independence School District in 2000 after 36 years of service as a nutrition manager. She was a member and served as president of the Jackson County School Food Association, and was also a member of the Missouri School Food Service Association and the American School Food Service Association. She served as recording secretary for the board of the local 93 UAW Retirees. She also volunteered as a youth friend for the Independence School District for 10 years. Betty was preceded in death by her husband, both parents, 5 brothers, 4 sisters, and 1 grandson. She is survived by a daughter, Rowena Griffith, and a son, Ellery Griffith Jr., and his wife, Teresa, 7 grandchildren, and 10 great-grandchildren. I was listening to a podcast the other day, and they were discussing how you know whether or not you're living the life that you should. And the question that they asked is, how big of a hole do you leave? My grandma lived life in such a way that she's going to leave a large void. In the most positive sense, that sounds very negative, but she's going to leave a hole because she touched everyone that she came in contact with, even when she didn't even know it. She personified unconditional love. She was married to Grandpa for 65 years. She was such a support to him. When he decided that he wanted to be in church leadership, she realized that that meant certain things for her as well, and she did whatever she had to do to become the person that she needed to be, and also a support to him so that he could be a proper deacon and elder in the church. One time I asked them, how have you been married so long, and how do you, because it wasn't just that they were married for 65 years. They were still puppy love all the way through. Sometimes I joke with her that I think she picked fights with Grandpa just so that they could make up. But she said, people tell you that marriage is 50-50, and it's a lie. It's 100 and 100. And that's always really stuck with me. She was the cornerstone of the family and of the home. She was one of those people that took a house, any house that she was in, and made it a home. And when I was talking to Roger the other day, just different stories and trying to figure out what we were going to do today, he said, whenever I was in her home, I never felt like a guest. And I think that we all can relate to that. She always did her best to make you feel as though you were part of the family. For those of you that know me, for a lot of years, I'd go here and I'd go there. I'd go overseas or decided to go live in New York, and I was always scared. And I remember this one time that I think it was when I was leaving for DC at the time. And she was crying, and she gave me a hug, and she looked into my eyes and said, "Remember, you can always come home." And it wasn't that she didn't believe in me. She knew that I could do whatever I was setting out to do, but she wanted to know that no matter what, I had a place to come back to, that wherever she was home. She was known for her hospitality. We've heard that a lot today. She did her best to have everyone in the church over to her home. Even when she was working full time, every Friday night it seemed like she had somebody over. And once she retired, one of her dreams was to have everybody in. She took the church directory, and she'd do birthdays, she'd do alphabet. She always had a theme, and so everyone was invited. If you didn't get to go, it was because you didn't come. It wasn't because you weren't invited. Her faithfulness is something that also stands out. She was a teacher and a mentor to many of the young girls. Anyone that was newly married, she would pull them aside. She had a book that really meant a lot to her and added a lot to her marriage. I think it was called The Total Woman. And she'd always give a copy of that, but she's meant so much to so many people, especially here at church. To the many people in the community and her friends, she served on the board of the UAW and retired teachers. She was also a youth friend. Even as dementia got worse and she became a lot more frail, she always did what she could, where she could. Even up to a few weeks ago, she was still having me go buy her cards so that she could send them out to people in the church that were either ill or had lost someone. She was always thinking about other people. In fact, I don't have this written down, but it's sad, but also kind of funny. We were in the ER, and she goes, "I can't die. Who's going to take care of Aaron?" And I'm just sitting there going, okay, seeing her in her little wheelchair, this, 6'3" guy, but she was always thinking of other people. She didn't realize how special she was, but we knew. And I think that just made her all the more special. She was so much fun. Anybody that really knew her, she was ornery. Grandpa called me his running buddy, but I always told her she was my partner in crime. she had a song for everything. And again, in the ER, I thought she was asleep. When I took her out sometimes to get her hair done on Friday mornings, I would take her to get her hair done, and I'd take her to breakfast just to get her out and have a sense of normalcy. And I'd always try to play music from her time that she really enjoyed. So sometimes it'd be Glenn Miller, In the Mood, or Hank Williams, or Johnny Cash. And one of her favorites was Hey Good Lookin' by Hank Williams. So we were in the ER, and she was, I thought she was sleeping. Her eyes were closed. And I just started kind of singing in her ear, Hey Good Lookin'. And she just belted out the song with me, and we sang for like a couple verses, and that'll still be one of my favorite memories. At the end, Grandpa had a hard time letting go, and he'd always, at first he'd say, I'm ready to go, but he'd always follow up, I'm not ready to leave Betty. I'm not ready to leave your granny. And so when he hung on for about 3 days, and we had Grandma talk to him and say, it's okay, she's going to be okay. It's okay to let go. And then right behind that, I whispered in his ear, don't worry, I promise I'll take care of her. And I did my best to fulfill that promise to the best of my ability. And I just want to thank Grandma and God for trusting and giving me the opportunity to take care of her for the past 8 years. She's now in her true home with God. And I know she's with Grandpa, just like on those Saturday mornings dancing in the kitchen. She's up there dancing with him. And I look forward to the day when I get to see her again. And if you guys will indulge me, this is one last thing. She had a favorite writer named Sharon Randall. She's a syndicated columnist. And after COVID, this was 2020, in the middle of the pandemic when everything was crazy. She was in the hospital for 6 weeks, and when she got out, she was extremely frail, and I had her at home taking care of her. And my birthday came around, and of course she couldn't get out and get me a card or anything. So on my birthday, she handed me this little write-up by Sharon to give me, and I think it's very fitting for today, and I just want to quickly read it. How do you teach a child to understand something you never quite understood? Growing up in a big Southern family, I knew what I wanted to be someday, a grandmama. I love my parents, but my grandmothers were the two most important people in my life. They made me feel safe and loved and smart, and they taught me all sort of things, how to read and write, how to listen closely, tell a story, and look beyond someone's face to see what's in their heart. Mostly, they taught me how to love with abandon, holding nothing back, the way that they loved me. I knew they would love me forever on this earth and someday from heaven. Every child needs that kind of love. It was a gift not only for me, but for my children and grandchildren and generations to come. Money helps, but love is a far richer inheritance. My children never knew their grandmothers. Their dad lost his mom before we met, and we lived 3,000 miles from my mother and visited only a few times before she died. I wanted to teach my children all the things my grandmothers taught me, but I was busy being their mom, cooking their meals, doing their laundry, feeding their dog, going to their games, and trying to keep my sanity. It's hard being a parent, but being a grandparent is easy as long as the parents do most of the work. My husband and I share 9 grandchildren, all blessed with wonderful parents. It makes our job as grandparents not just easy, but fun. Only 2 things are hard: finding time to spend with each child and saying goodbye when it's time to go. Recently, I drove 5 hours south to spend a few days with my older son, his wife, and their 2 little ones. Jonah is almost 3. Leilani is 8 months old. When Leilani was born, I spent a few weeks with them, and Jonah and I got to be good buddies. Since then, we've kept in touch with FaceTime calls, but I needed some real time. So for 4 days last week, Jonah and I talked and laughed and played together. We read books, told stories, and built tents to hide in from bears. Leilani watched us closely, clapping her hands, but finally it was time for me to go. Come sit here, I said to Jonah, patting my lap. He climbed up and put his arm around my neck. Then I asked him the questions that I've trained him and his cousins to answer. I'll teach them to Leilani when she's older. How much do I love you? All, he said. And where is your Nana when you can't see her? He pointed to his chest and said, in my heart. Can you feel my love deep down in your heart? He thought about it a moment, then nodded and smiled. I have to go now, I said, but I'll come see you again. He turned away, but I took his face in my hands, smoothed his hair, and smiled into his eyes. When someone goes away, I said, they take our love with them and leave their love with us. You'll always have my love, and I'll have yours. So if we miss each other, we'll still feel loved, and it will make us happy. And then she wrote to me, but I feel like it's to all of us. She wrote, I love you so much. Remember, when Granny has to go, I'll always love you. Thank you.
Hello. My name is Teresa Reed, and Aunt Betty is my grand aunt. People try to correct me all the time that she's not my grand aunt, she's my great aunt. And actually, she's not. She's my grandmother's baby sister. I'm going to read a family letter that's been in our family for generations, that's written by Oliver Page. And so these are his words. Dear children, I thought I would write you a few lines for the future. We are all known by the company that we keep, and we are also known by our language. Keep good company or none. Never be idle. If your hands cannot be usefully employed, then attend the cultivation of your mind. Always speak the truth. Good company and good conversation are the very sinews of virtue. Good character is above all other things. Your character cannot be essentially injured except by your acts. If anyone speaks evil of you, let your life be such that no one will believe him. Drink no intoxicating liquors. Save when you are young so that you can spend when you're old. And when you retire to bed, think over what you have been doing during the day. Dear children, I wish each of you one of these, a copy of the lines. I wish you to read them and keep them in remembrance of your dear Father. Dear children, don't forget to worship your God. Oliver Page.
Let's stand up a minute and sing this song. This song is a song of farewell that's used very often in this congregation. And it's a song of love for us to each other, and a song about the love of God for us. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord lift his countenance upon you and give you peace, and give you peace. The Lord may
Good morning. My name's Ken Truax. I go to church here. We're going to say a prayer in just a minute, and after the prayer, I'd encourage you to remain seated, and then we'll be dismissed in a little bit. Would you pray with me, please? Dear God and Father, thank you for our time today. Thank you that we could be here to remember Betty and all that she means to us. We ask that you be with Betty's family today, Father, and be with them in the days and the weeks and the months ahead. Grant them peace, grant them comfort, grant them great memories, and help them over the coming days to reflect on the life and the legacy of Betty. And Lord, for those of us that were Betty's friends, thank you for the blessing of knowing Betty. And thank you for having her and letting her be part of our lives. For those of us that are part of this church family here at the East Independence Congregation, thank you for the work and for the love, the blessings, and the trail blazed by both Betty and Ellery, of which we are today the recipients. We recognize, Father, that the East Independence Church family would be the poorer if we did not have the dramatic impact of Betty and Ellery Griffith and their service to you. And Father, though we have many good memories of Betty and many, many good memories of Ellery, as we've already said, we recognize that it was always Betty and Ellery. And what a blessing they were to each other and to all of us. And so, Father, as we remember Betty and reflect on the memories, help us to constantly be aware of the impact we have on others and follow the example of Betty and Ellery. And help each of us to leave a legacy that honors you, reflects Jesus to everyone, and help us to model our lives and learn from the legacy of Betty and Ellery. Thank you for this time today, Father. But most of all, thank you for the blessing that is this good lady and what she means to us. And it's through Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Unforgettable, that's what you are.
Unforgettable, though near or far.
Like a song of love that clings to me. How the thought of you does things to me never before has someone been more
unforgettable in every way.
and forevermore.
and forevermore.
That's how you'll stay.
That's how you'll stay.
That's why, darling, it's incredible that someone so unforgettable
Thinks that I am unforgettable too. Someone been more. Ooh, unforgettable in every way. And forevermore. That's how you'll stay.
That's how you'll stay. That's why, darling, it's incredible
That someone so unforgettable thinks that I am unforgettable too.
That's life.
That's life.
That's what all the people say. You're riding high in April, shot down in May. But I know I'm gonna change that tune. When I'm back on top in June. I said that's life.
That's life.
And as funny as it may seem, some people get their kicks stomping on a dream. But I don't let it get me down. 'Cause this fine old world, it keeps spinning around. I've been a puppet, a pauper, a pirate, a poet, a pawn and a king. I've been up and down and over and out. And I know one thing, each time I find myself flat on my face, I pick myself up and get back in the race. That's life.
That's life.
I tell you, I can't deny it. I thought of quitting, baby, but my heart just ain't gonna buy it. And if I didn't think it was worth one single try, I'd jump right on a big bird and then I'd fly. I've been a puppet, a pauper, a pirate, a poet, a pawn and a king. I've been up and down and over and out. And I know one thing, each time I find myself laying flat on my face, I just pick myself up and get back in the race. That's life.
That's life.
That's life. And I can't deny it. Many times I thought of cutting out, but my heart won't buy it. But if there's nothing shaking come this here July, I'm gonna roll myself up in a big ball and die.
When you're all alone and blue, no one to tell your troubles to. Remember me, I'm the one who loves you. When this world has turned you down, and not a true friend can be found, remember me, I'm the one who loves you. And through all kinds of weather, you find I'll never change. Through the sunshine and the shadows, I'll always be the same. We're together, right or wrong. Where you go, I'll tag along. Remember me, I'm the one who loves you. And through all kinds of weather, you'll find I'll never change. Through the sunshine and the shadows, I'll always be the same. Remember me, we're together, right or wrong. Where you go, I'll tag along. Remember me, I'm the one who loves you. Remember me, I'm the one who loves you.
Trees of green and red roses too.
I'll watch them bloom for me and you, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Well, I see skies of blue and I see clouds of white and the brightness of day. I like the dark and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. The colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the sky, are also on the faces of people passing by. I see friends shaking hands singing, how do you do? They really say, I love you. I hear babies cry and I watch them grow. They'll learn much more than we'll know, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Someday I wish upon a star, wake up where the clouds are far behind me, where trouble melts like a lemon drops high above the chimney top. That's where